Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something really powerful, this idea of togetherness, and specifically what it means to have this promise of a constant divine presence, this idea that you're never truly alone. So let's just jump right in. I mean, have you ever felt that? Just completely lonely, isolated? It's such a human feeling, right? Like you're facing everything all on your own. It's tough, and it's at the heart of so many of our struggles. But what if there's another way to look at it all?
Well, the answer to that feeling of being all alone, it really hinges on this one powerful concept, Emmanuel. It's this ancient Hebrew name, and it literally means God with us. And listen, this isn't just some fluffy, nice idea. It's a foundational promise. The idea is that God isn't some distant spectator, but is right there with us.
Okay, so God with us. What does that actually look like day to day? To figure that out, we're going to unpack this whole promise by looking at 4 different stories from the Bible. And what's cool is that each one shows us a totally different side of what God's presence looks like in the middle of, real messy life.
All right, first up, let's take a look at the life of David. His story is just wild. It's full of these incredible highs and some seriously dangerous lows.
So try to picture this. David has just pulled off this impossible victory over Goliath. He's a national hero overnight. But instead of a parade, what does he get? The king, Saul, becomes insanely jealous. We're talking life-threateningly jealous. Suddenly, David is on the run, and the most powerful man in the country wants him dead. It's an impossible situation.
But right in the middle of all this chaos, all the plotting and the danger, the story keeps repeating one simple phrase over and over. And this is the absolute key to understanding what's going on. It says, "The Lord was with David." That little phrase becomes the most important fact in the story, even more real and more powerful than the king's threats.
And what's so amazing is that this wasn't just a nice thought. It had real, tangible results. You can actually see the pattern. Every single time Saul tried to get rid of David, it completely backfired. Saul sends him into a deadly battle. David comes back victorious. Saul schemes to make the people hate him. David just becomes even more popular. It shows you that this presence wasn't just some warm, fuzzy feeling. No, it was an active force, giving him wisdom, protection, and success when he had no business succeeding.
Okay, so that's God's presence in a crisis. Now, let's shift gears a bit. We're going to move from one person's individual danger to the power of community. And we'll see this in the story of the Apostle Paul.
Now, Paul, this guy was a giant in early Christianity. He was a force of nature. But if you read his letters, he makes one thing crystal clear. He absolutely did not do it alone. His writings are just filled with these shout-outs to his teammates, his co-workers. For Paul, God's work wasn't a solo gig. It happened through the people he partnered with.
And we're not talking about a small crew either. The list of names he rattles off in just one chapter is incredible. You've got men, women, people from all different walks of life, all working together on the same mission. It's just a perfect picture of how God's presence often shows up, through the people he puts in our lives.
So the big takeaway here, God with us often looks a lot like us with us. It's about being on a team, right? Supporting each other and doing something together that none of you could ever do on your own. But what about when things get really dark? What does God with us look like when everything, and I mean everything, is falling apart? For that, we turn to the story of the prophet Jeremiah, and this is a story of just gut-wrenching despair.
Jeremiah is literally watching his entire world crumble. His home city, Jerusalem, is being destroyed. Can you even imagine the pain, the loss? It's just overwhelming. He feels completely abandoned, like he's being punished. He says he's a man who has seen nothing but suffering. This is as low as it gets. It's rock bottom.
And honestly, how do you find hope in a moment like that? It seems impossible. But right there, in the middle of all that pain, something shifts. The narrative takes this really interesting turn. Jeremiah's whole perspective starts to change because he forces his mind to remember one critical thing.
And this is the anchor he grabs onto. Even with everything around him in ruins, he holds on to a truth that is bigger than his circumstances, bigger than his pain. He remembers God's character. He remembers that God's love, his mercy, those things weren't destroyed when the city walls fell. And that's the lesson. In the absolute depths of despair, God's presence is felt as this unstoppable, steady love that's still there when everything else is gone.
Okay, for our last story, we're going to zoom in really close to a moment of deep personal weakness, humiliation even. This is all about what happens when we're at our absolute weakest.
So we're back to David again, but this is a totally different David. He's not the hero of the battlefield this time. He's a desperate fugitive, so scared for his life he's pretending to be insane just to survive. The Hebrew word used to describe him here means afflicted, poor, humbled. He has absolutely nothing left, no power, no dignity, no strength.
So what happens in that moment of complete and total weakness? He cries out for help. And the psalmist, he writes about this experience. Its message is so simple but so profound. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him. God heard him, not because he was a hero, not because he was perfect, but just because he was in trouble and he asked for help. That's it.
And this just reveals such a powerful truth, doesn't it? It means we don't have to pretend we've got it all together. God's presence isn't some prize you win for being strong. It's a lifeline He throws to you when you're weak. In fact, it seems like it's in those moments, when we need it most, that His help is the clearest.
Okay, so let's pull all these different stories together. We've got 4 threads, so let's see what the bigger picture of this Emmanuel promise really looks like.
When you lay it all out, this really beautiful pattern emerges. For David, when he was in danger, togetherness meant protection and success. For Paul and his mission, it meant community and partnership. For Jeremiah, in his despair, it was a steady love that brought hope. And for the psalmist, in his weakness, it was rescue and comfort. You see that? 4 totally different situations, but one constant presence weaving through them all.
And that, right there, is the core idea. It doesn't matter if you're on top of the world or at the absolute bottom. It doesn't matter if you're surrounded by friends or feel totally cut off. The promise of Emmanuel, of God with us, holds true. You are never, ever alone.
So I'll just leave you with this to think about. When you look at your own life, right now, your wins, your struggles, the people around you, the moments you feel weak, how might that promise be showing up for you? In your life, today, how is God with you?